If you only get paid when you physically show up to work, your income is tied to your presence. Burke Hedges defines this direct exchange of your life force for a paycheck as carrying buckets. The alternative is to build a pipeline. This is a system or asset that requires concentrated effort to set up, but eventually produces value and cash flow whether you are physically working or not. This is the central allegory of the 2001 personal finance book, The Parable of the Pipeline. While the book was written 2 decades ago, its logic is more relevant now than ever. We are going to translate this theoretical framework into a modern digital action plan you can start today. To do that, I need you to open a blank spreadsheet or a notebook. Building a pipeline requires initial work, so you cannot just watch. You need to build alongside this video. Hedges calls this the people's pipeline. It's based on the fact that while wealth is distributed unequally, time is not. Every human being receives a daily deposit of exactly 1,440 minutes. Write that number, 1,440, at the top of your spreadsheet. This is your total daily capital. Now, subtract 480 minutes for 8 hours of sleep. Subtract another 480 minutes for your day job. Then take out the time you spend on your commute, making meals, and basic survival. You are left with a small remaining sliver. This sliver represents your only window for building wealth. Most people see their pipeline dreams stall because these minutes evaporate in 5 and 10-minute increments on social media or in front of the TV, effectively spending the only capital they have. Mapping this deposit is the first step. It forces you to realize that financial security starts with time awareness, rather than simply hoping for a higher salary from your bucket-carrying job. Look at your week and schedule a couple of structured hours on weekday evenings, plus one larger block on the weekend. By treating these as focused hours, you generate hundreds of extra building hours every year without changing your full-time job. You might feel the urge to wait until life feels less stressful or a better time opens up to start this schedule. Hedges warns against this through parables like the ant and the grasshopper, or the joke about the man falling off a skyscraper who says, "Fine so far," as he passes the 10th floor. Pipeline building must begin during stable times, because you cannot build a safety net after the crash has already started. Locking these hours into a calendar now forces you to confront a difficult reality. A single paycheck is a single point of failure. By dedicating time to a second source of income, you are creating a concrete backup for when your primary bucket-carrying job is no longer available. During those scheduled blocks, your goal is to build what the book calls e-compounding vision, a digital leverage vehicle. Linear labor is fragile because your income is capped by the hours you have available. Digital systems are resilient because they use upfront work to create assets that produce value repeatedly, regardless of whether you are present. Choose a project, like a digital product, a software tool, or a content network, and run it through a 3-part checklist. First, does the project use technology to scale without your manual intervention? Second, does it leverage relationships or a trust network to reach new people? And third, can the asset be duplicated infinitely at near zero cost? If your project fails these tests, you aren't building a pipeline. You've just created a second, more complicated bucket to carry. On your spreadsheet, set a hard launch date for the first version of this project. This is the final piece of your faster plan. Be prepared for the early results to look like zero. The math of compounding means the most significant growth happens only after a long period of invisible progress. Hedges notes that the barrier to this plan isn't the math, but the human desire for visible consumption. He cites research showing that we often spend our tiny surplus on things that look like success today, cars or clothes, rather than investing that same time and money into the invisible pipes of a future asset. To survive this phase, you have to ignore the urge for immediate status and trust the delayed mechanics of the system you are building. Look at the plan you've just mapped out. You have moved past a vague desire for freedom and created a mathematical audit of your time, a verified vehicle for leverage, and a dedicated building schedule. Your objective for this week is simple. Show up for your very first scheduled block and work on your pipeline without distraction. The ultimate goal is a system that provides total financial insulation, flowing steadily regardless of what happens to the job market. Carry buckets if you must to survive today, but build pipelines anyway to secure your tomorrow.